The NFL is on fire tonight after reports that Shedeur Sanders flat out rejected a draft day offer from the Baltimore Ravens, choosing the Cleveland Browns instead. Executives are furious, insiders are scrambling, and this single decision could rewrite the AFC for years.
Of this spring.
Our Gurney was all set. A consensus had been reached. The Baltimore Ravens, were planning to select Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round with the 141st overall selection. But when he found out, he got word back to the Ravens that he preferred not to go to a place where he would be competing and backing up Lamar Jackson. He wanted to be in a place that he could play. And so when the Ravens got that message, they pivoted, went a different direction with the 141st overall selection. And 3 picks later, the Cleveland Browns selected Shedeur Sanders, who will be in Baltimore today, where he could have been spending his NFL career if he were willing to back up Lamar Jackson. Preferred not to do that, and so Shedeur Sanders will make that trip to Baltimore today. Could have been a Raven, but he's a Brown.
The NFL world just got rocked by a bombshell revelation that's got everyone talking. Shedeur Sanders straight up rejected the Baltimore Ravens when they were ready to draft him in the 5th round. We're talking about a consensus pick, a done deal, until Shedeur got word and basically said, "Nah, I'm good," because he didn't want to sit behind Lamar Jackson. Instead, he chose the chaos of Cleveland Browns, and now the entire league is questioning everything they thought they knew about draft strategy and player power moves. This isn't just about one pick. This is about a 5th-round quarterback having the audacity to pick his destination. And the ripple effects are already sending shockwaves through front offices across the NFL.
We got a blockbuster Adam Schefter report that apparently the Baltimore Ravens were ready to draft Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round of the 2025 NFL Draft, but before they were able to turn the card in, Shedeur Sanders let it be known that he did not want to go to Baltimore to be the backup behind Lamar Jackson. This is absolutely crazy. Kind of came out of nowhere. Funny, this is finally coming out 5 months after the NFL Draft. And when you look at it from Shedeur's angle, you drop to the 5th round, and you tell a team you don't want to be drafted by them to not be their backup when you're going now to be somebody's backup, probably for the rest of your career. Absolutely crazy stuff. Wild that Baltimore felt like they were going to take the shot on Shedeur Sanders, even though they have previously signed Cooper Rush in free agency. Just a little bit of wild news this morning, about an hour and a half, 2 hours before things kick off against Cleveland.
Listen, I've been covering this league for years, and what Shedeur Sanders did is absolutely unprecedented. You've got to understand, this is a guy who fell from 1st-round projections all the way to the 5th round. And when he finally gets his shot, he's still trying to dictate terms? The audacity is off the charts. But here's the thing that's got me fired up.
Well, now you're looking for a responsibility. He certainly doesn't think he needs developing. He thought he was going to be the 1st overall pick. So for him, Cleveland made more sense and guess what? I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the year if he doesn't start for the Cleveland Browns. Would anybody?
It does no good to go play
on the field, right?
Not in a bad situation. No, you go put bad film out there, see how that does for your career. I mean, it'll be a quick ticket out of it.
It's an interesting juxtaposition between that position and all the others, right? At any other position.
So report from Adam Schefter here that we'll label as interesting, to say the least, or at least interesting timing. Just 2 hours, essentially, before the Browns go into Baltimore to play the Ravens, Adam Schefter drops a report that the Ravens were going to draft Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round at pick 141, just 3 spots before the place where the Browns ultimately came up and traded up to get Shedeur Sanders for them.
It might actually be genius. Picture this scene from draft day. Baltimore Ravens war room. Consensus reached. Draft card ready. They're about to select Shedeur Sanders with the 141st overall pick. Everything's locked and loaded. Then boom. Word comes back through the grapevine that Sanders doesn't want any part of Baltimore. Why? Because he looked at that roster and saw Lamar Jackson, a 2-time MVP who's going to be there for the next decade, and said, I need to be somewhere I can actually play. Now, before we dive deep into this madness, let me paint you the full picture, because this story has more layers than a championship-level playbook.
Kevin Stefanski said after the game that he won't consider a QB change. Hey, Miles, enjoy that $160 million, because this is what it's going to be like in your future. Until you get a quarterback, this is what you're going to be resigned to. Now, Look, maybe, getting $1 million, $2 million a month, every game check, Ocho, before taxes.
Yeah.
Maybe that lessens it some. This is your fate. This is your fate. This is, Ocho, let's be real. This is what's going to happen in Cleveland.
Unless something miraculously happens, we do know that Joe Flacco can go on a run offensively.
Adam Schefter broke this story right before the Ravens absolutely demolished the Browns 41-17, which makes this whole thing even more dramatic. Can you imagine? Shedeur's sitting there watching Lamar Jackson throw 4 touchdown passes against the team he chose to join instead. Talk about immediate karma. But here's where it gets really spicy. And this is why I'm Team Shedeur on this one, even though everyone's calling him crazy. The kid looked at both situations and made a calculated business decision. Baltimore Ravens? Sure, they're the model of stability. They develop quarterbacks. They've got a proven track record. But behind Lamar Jackson, what's Shedeur's ceiling? Clipboard holder for the next 5 years. Maybe some garbage time snaps if they're lucky. Cleveland Browns? Yeah, they're a disaster organization. I'm not sugarcoating that. They've had like 30 starting quarterbacks in the last 20 years. But that's exactly why it makes sense. Chaos creates opportunity, and Shedeur saw that chaos as his fast track to the field. The Ravens immediately pivoted when they got that message. 3 picks later, Cleveland traded up to grab him at 144th overall. And here's what nobody's talking about. This wasn't some last-minute decision. This was strategic warfare by Shedeur's camp. They studied both organizations, looked at the depth charts, and made a power move that no 5th-round pick should have the leverage to make. Think about the psychology here. Shedeur went from thinking he's a first-round talent to watching 140 players get picked before him. His ego took a massive hit. So when Baltimore comes calling, offering him a chance to learn behind one of the best quarterbacks in the league, what does he do? He says, "Thanks, but no thanks," because his pride won't let him admit he needs development time. The experts are absolutely split on this decision, and their reactions tell you everything about how wild this situation really is. Mel Kiper Jr., who's basically Shedeur's biggest advocate in the media, went nuclear defending this kid. He called NFL teams clueless for letting Shedeur slide, and gave Cleveland an A+ grade primarily for this pick. This kid should have been a first-round draft choice, Kiper insisted. But here's the flip side. Todd McShay revealed some behind-the-scenes intel that explains why Shedeur fell so far. Apparently, his interviews were disasters. McShay said he didn't have a great interview with Brian Daboll and came unprepared for install packages. One anonymous NFL personnel guy called his formal interview the worst I've ever been in. So we've got a quarterback who bombs interviews, falls to the 5th round, then has the nerve to reject teams? Either this is the most arrogant move in draft history, or Shedeur knows something we don't. Fast forward to September 2025, and the plot thickens. When reporters asked Shedeur about this Ravens situation after Cleveland got destroyed 41-17 by Baltimore, you know what he said? "My response is I'm focused on the now. I don't really talk about anything in the past." That's not a denial, folks. That's a politician's answer, which basically confirms everything. But here's what's really cooking my brain about this whole situation. Shedeur Sanders might be playing 4D chess, while everyone else is playing checkers. Yeah, he's currently 3rd string behind Joe Flacco and Dylan Gabriel. Yeah, he's been inactive for both regular season games. But look at Cleveland's track record with quarterbacks. How long do you think Flacco lasts? How long before they give up on Gabriel? The Ravens fans are having a field day with this story, and I get it. They're posting memes like, "Rather be Lamar's backup than Joe Flacco's," and honestly, they've got a point. But Ravens fans are missing the bigger picture here. Baltimore is a finished product. They're not rebuilding. They're not experimenting. They know what they are. Shedeur would have been insurance, nothing more. In Cleveland, every season is an experiment. Every quarterback is one bad performance away from getting benched. That's chaos. But for a hungry rookie, chaos equals opportunity. The numbers don't lie either. Lamar Jackson is 28 years old. He's healthy. He just threw 4 touchdowns against Cleveland. How many snaps does his backup realistically get? Maybe 20 to 30 per season unless there's an injury. Meanwhile, Cleveland's already benched their supposed franchise quarterback multiple times over the past few years. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Shedeur's bet might pay off sooner than anyone thinks. Cleveland started 0-2. Their offense looks terrible, and fans are already calling for changes. If Flacco struggles and Gabriel can't step up, guess who's next in line? The Colorado kid who everyone said was too cocky to succeed. And let's talk about that cockiness for a second, because it's exactly what might make him special. You don't reject the Baltimore Ravens as a fifth-round pick unless you have unshakable confidence in your ability. That's not arrogance. That's championship mentality. That's the same mindset that had Tom Brady fuming about getting picked 199th and using it as motivation for 2 decades. The viral social media reactions have been incredible. LeBron James and Shedeur Sanders are backing Shedeur, while NFL Twitter is roasting him. But you know what? All publicity is good publicity when you're trying to make it in this league. Every time someone mentions his name, they're talking about a guy who had the guts to turn down a playoff team because he believed in himself. Cleveland fans initially loved the pick. 5th-round flyer on a talented quarterback? Why not? But as the losses pile up and Shedeur remains inactive, that love is turning into impatience. They want to see what they got. They want to know if this rejection of Baltimore was justified or if they just inherited someone else's problem. The really crazy part: this story broke right before Cleveland played Baltimore, adding this perfect dramatic irony. Shedeur had to watch from the sideline as the team he rejected dominated the team he chose. Lamar was out there looking like prime Michael Jordan while Shedeur couldn't even get activated for the game. But here's my hot take, and this is where I'm going to defend Shedeur when everyone else is piling on. His rejection of Baltimore shows exactly the kind of competitor's mentality you want in a quarterback. He looked at a sure thing, a safe situation, a place where he could learn and develop slowly, and said, "Nah, I'd rather bet on myself." That's not stupidity, that's fearlessness. Think about it from his perspective. He already fell further than anyone expected. His confidence was shattered. The last thing he needed was to spend 3 years holding a clipboard in Baltimore, watching Lamar Jackson win games while he collected dust. At least in Cleveland, even if things go wrong, he's going to get a chance to prove himself one way or another. The business side of this decision makes sense too. Baltimore already has their franchise quarterback locked up long-term. Even if Shedeur developed into something special, what's his path to starting? Hope for an injury? Wait until Lamar's 35? In Cleveland, the quarterback position is always up for grabs. Always. Former NFL players and analysts keep saying he should have chosen development over opportunity. But I think they're missing something crucial. Shedeur doesn't think he needs development. He thinks he's ready now. Whether that's delusion or confidence remains to be seen, but you can't coach that kind of self-belief. The Ravens moved on instantly, signed Cooper Rush as their backup, and haven't missed a beat. That should tell you everything about how they viewed Shedeur, as a luxury pick, not a necessity. Cleveland, meanwhile, is still desperately searching for quarterback stability, which means Shedeur's opportunity might come faster than anyone expects. Looking at the preseason, Shedeur showed flashes. 2 touchdowns in his debut against Carolina, some really nice throws, pocket presence that reminded you why he was getting first-round buzz initially. Then he got hurt, struggled in later appearances, and suddenly everyone was questioning if he belongs. But preseason performance doesn't mean everything. How many great quarterbacks looked terrible in August? How many supposed busts turned into superstars once the real game started? The only thing that matters is what happens when your number gets called during the regular season. Here's the million-dollar question that's driving me crazy with Shedeur Sanders. Rejection of Baltimore the smartest career move by a 5th round pick in NFL history, or the dumbest? Because honestly, looking at both sides, I can argue it either way. On one hand, you've got organizational stability versus opportunity. Baltimore is everything you want as a young player. Great coaching, playoff contender, proven track record of developing quarterbacks. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl there. Lamar Jackson became an MVP there. The infrastructure is built for success. But on the other hand, what good is perfect infrastructure if you never get to use it? Shedeur looked at that situation and saw himself wasting away on the bench while Lamar Jackson plays until he's 35. That's 7 years of prime development time potentially wasted. Cleveland represents the complete opposite. Organizational chaos, coaching uncertainty, a franchise that's basically a quarterback graveyard. But chaos creates cracks, and cracks create opportunities. How many backup quarterbacks have become starters in Cleveland over the past 5 years? How many times have they given up on their supposed franchise guy? The timing of this revelation is perfect because it came right before these two teams played each other. Shedeur had to watch from the sideline, inactive, as Lamar Jackson carved up his new team for 4 touchdowns. That had to sting. That had to make him question everything. But you know what? I bet it also motivated him. I bet watching that game made him hungrier, made him more determined to prove his decision was right. Because if there's one thing we know about Shedeur Sanders, it's that he doesn't back down from a challenge. The fan reactions have been absolutely wild. Ravens fans are relieved they dodged a bullet. Browns fans are split between excitement and frustration, and neutral fans are just entertained by the chaos. Social media has been going crazy with memes about this situation. My prediction? Shedeur is going to get his shot in Cleveland sooner than anyone thinks. Whether it's this season or next, Cleveland's quarterback situation is too unstable for him to stay buried on the depth chart forever. And when he gets that shot, this whole Ravens rejection story is either going to look like genius-level foresight or one of the worst decisions in draft history. What do you think? Did Shedeur Sanders make the right call rejecting Baltimore for Cleveland? Are we looking at a future starting quarterback who knew exactly what he was doing, or a player whose ego cost him the chance to learn from one of the best organizations in football? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this story is far from over. The NFL is always about timing, opportunity, and making the most of your chances. Shedeur Sanders created his own opportunity by rejecting the safe choice. Now he just has to prove he was right. And honestly, I can't wait to see how this plays out. Subscribe for more NFL chaos and hit that notification bell because stories like this don't come around every day. The league is always full of surprises, but Shedeur Sanders just gave us one of the wildest draft stories we've ever seen.